Hello everyone, this is Professor Maloney, and today I'm going to be making a recording, my first recording for Chapter 8 to demonstrate a programming example for you to thus help you on your Chapter 8 programming exercises. This particular program will demonstrate the programming exercise that deals with largest number. It's either 8-2 or 8-3. And this will help you, it'll really help you do both, but I'm not going to give you all the code for everything this time. Again, I'm going to just show you it as an example that I'm doing. And in my example, it's going to be the Toronto Raptors. And the Toronto Raptors are my team in basketball, as you know. And basically, I'm going to calculate, or I'm going to have the user input 5 points scored by the Raptors for the last 5 games. Now, I'm not monitoring, what points scored they're inputting, but let's just say 110, 106, 114, 109, 118. Once you enter 5, it'll then calculate the total of those 5 scores, the average of those scores, those 5 scores. Not really score, like it's not going to be Toronto's score versus the opponent's score. It's going to just be Toronto's points. Okay. And then come up, demonstrate the largest score out of the points that were entered. All righty. And I'm also going to start it though with a demonstration that I've talked about many times now. It's the test scores going back to Chapter 4. I'm going to show you that example in Chapter 4 the way we had done it in class, and then, but I redid it. I couldn't find the actual exercise, but either way, it'll be very, very close. And then what I did to demonstrate it for Chapter 5 when we used a loop instead. Again, it won't be the exact one, but it'll be very, very close. And I'll show you how a loop cannot do what we want it to do in terms of using if statements to determine which scores were lower than quote unquote average. Okay. But I'm going to demonstrate those, and then I'm going to put that one or show that one in a loop with an array. Okay. So that's going to be the first part, and then I'll go on to the next one. All right. I think I can get all this done in less than an hour. I always say that anyway. Hopefully I will. All righty. So let me share my screen. Today, by the way, is November 23rd. And it's 12:31 p.m. right now. Okay. That. All right. Now, so I already have up the one for the Chapter 4, the Chapter 5, and then my version of doing it with what we would do for Chapter 8. All right. So first, I'll just demonstrate what Chapter 4 will do. Then I'll go through the code. Then I'll demonstrate what Chapter 5 will do. Then I'll go through the code. Then I'll demonstrate what Chapter 8 will do, and then I'll go through the code. Okay. All right. So it's already set to run. So run. Now it tells us to enter 5 test scores. All right. So I shall say 90, 79, 83, 97. 85. So that's 5 scores. So now when I enter, it should obviously do what the program is supposed to do. So I entered 5 scores. Then it says the average of the 5 test scores was 86.00. Okay. The tests below average are listed below. So 79 is less than 86, therefore it's less than average. 83 is less than 86, therefore it's less than average. 85 is also less than average because it's less than 86. So let's go up here and first verify what the sum. Oh, I didn't put the sum of the score. Okay, let me put the sum of the score here so we can have it too. I don't know that we actually need the sum. No, we don't. Because we have it right here, and I'll just tally it up just so that we can then do the average. So I'll do the 10s first. So 90 and 70 is 160, and 80 is 240. 240 and 90 is 330. 330 and 80 is 410. And then the singles. So 410 and 9, 419, and 3, 422, and 7, 429, and 5, 434. So 580s are 400, and we have 34 more. So 5 6s are 30, so we have 4 more. So we have 86 point, and then we have basically, actually wait, that hit it right in the nose. 90, 160, 240, 330, 410, 415, 22, 25, 34. Technically, if you divide 434 by 5, 86 would be 0.00. Let's see. Oh, you know what? If I made them ints, let me see what I made these things. So they're all ints, so they're whole numbers, but I am using for average a double. Well, I'm not going to worry about that end of it right now because I just want to show you what's happening, right? So what's happening? All right, so let's now look. This is, again, going back to chapter 4. The most important point is that we had to have 5 different variables. One variable I'm calling test 0, okay? And that's going to be represented by this first test, 90. The next one, test 1, will be represented by the 79. Test 2 is the 83. Test 3 is the 97. And test 4 is the 85. So 5 different variables to hold those 5 different values. That's the point, okay? But the second point, which is almost as big, is that to get the average, okay, I had to manually say if test 0 is less than average. So first, of course, I calculated the average. So average is adding the 5 tests up and then dividing it by 5, okay? So because I did that, then I was able to get the average score. So all these together, divide by 5, comes out to 86, right? So 86 is then the average. Then I said, or I don't remember if I said it or it was part of what we were doing in chapter 4 at the time, but it's a great point for now because you'll see what it does in chapter 5's case and then whether it can do it in chapter 8's case. So either way, what I did is say, so we know the average now, right? So we did the average first, meaning you have to get this average before you can figure out the average. So we have the average, then we say test 0, is that less than average? Well, test 0 is 90. So it's not less than average because the average was 86. So it does not say 90 is less than average. And I told you test 0 is the one that's represented by this 90. So it is not, okay? The next one is 79. Well, 79 is less than 86. And that's represented by test 1. So if test 1 is less than 86, 79 is less than 86. So it'll say 79 is less than average. Over here, 79 is less than average. The next one, test 3, which because I did the 0 through 4, is test 2. So test 2, the third test, is 83. 83 is also less than 86. So here, when it came to say if test 2, which is the third test, is less than, so 83, is it less than 86? The answer is yes. So 83 is less than average. 83 is less than average. The next test, the fourth test, is test 3 here based on the test 0, 1, 2, 3. So test 3 is the fourth test. So 90, 79, 83. 97 is the fourth. Well, that's sure not below average because average is 86 and 97 is obviously above it. So test 4, which is 97, does not show up over here. Does not show up. Then the last one, test 4, which is really test 5. So test 4 was 85. Is 85 less than 86? Yes, it is. Okay, so it worked perfectly fine. And at that point, it was the first time we were able to have selection structures to allow us to see only go into this first if, let's say, if the true false expression in this case, right? Because it's an expression, and expressions, excuse me, have to evaluate to true or false for you to put them in a loop, to put them in a switch structure, put them in an if statement, put them in anything in programming. You have to have, they have to be able to be true or false. So in any event, point being that we had to manually have all 5 grades and then figure this out, okay? So it was good at the time, but it was a lot of work. Not really a lot, but I mean, we'll call it a lot of work, okay? So now I'm going to comment that one out. Okay, so I'll do a slash asterisk at the beginning of it, and then do an asterisk slash at the end of it. Slash asterisk, remember, is a multi-line comment, and an asterisk slash closes it down afterwards. So now I want to open up, make available the chapter 5 one. So I take away the multi-line comment, take away the end of the multi-line comment, and then I'll run this one. So remember these things right here. I'm going to try to do the same scores. So 90, I'm going to write them down. Let's see. 90, 79, 83, 97, 85. Okay. All right. So run it. Enter 5 test scores. All right. So 90, 79, 83, 97, and 85. That's the same 5 scores. So the average of the 5 test scores was 86. 86.8 here. Okay. So here I didn't use an int as part of the calculation version. I'll show you that in a moment. But that's why I knew we were looking for 4 more points when it got to 434. But anyway, so that if you divide 4 by the 5, it's 0.8. Anyway, but note, but you cannot calculate, excuse me, which scores were below the average score in a loop unless you use an array in the loop. Okay, so this is now the loop. Let's go through the loop. So same things in terms of declarations, and I didn't even talk about that up top. But here I have average as a double and sum as a double. So I've got 2 things here as doubles, which means it'll then allow me to get everything calculated the way I want. So then the set precision we don't care about. So enter 5 test scores, and then for counter 1, counter less than equal 5, counter plus plus. So in other words, this is allowing us to loop through 5 different scores, in this case, test scores. Okay. All right. And the C input is test. Now here though, it's not test 1, then test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5, nor is it test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, or test 4. Instead, the one variable called test, okay, is used here for counter 1, which in this case is the number 90. So 90 in this case is test. That's the variable called test. Okay, 90. All right. Then I'm putting test into sum. So sum, which is 0 right now, equals 0, 0. 0 plus 90. So now sum has 90. Test still has 90 though. So test has 90 and sum has 90. Goes back to the loop. Now, of course, counter plus plus. So now we're going through to the second count. The next one is a 79. 79 now replaces 90 in the CIN. So the test variable, which had the value 90, now has the value 79. Okay, so now 79 is being added to sum, which had the value of 90. So sum is 90 plus 79, so it's 169. Okay, then it goes in again, gets the third value. So in this case up here, it would be counter 3 because I'm starting it at 1. So 3, 1, 2, 3. 83. 83 on to 169. Well, first, the 83 replaced the 79. So it's no longer 79, it's now 83 because it's the same variable. So every time it hits that variable, whatever is in it is overridden by the new value. Okay, overridden every time. That's the key point. And then, but I'm throwing the value, the new value into the sum, then getting another new value, putting it into test, comes down here in test, puts it into sum. So it's always getting the most accurate sum, meaning it's adding up these values, but it did not save test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5, or if you want to call them test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, it's not. Okay, so therefore, I can't go to look for a specific test to get my average. Okay, could I get a regular average? Of course, I can do that, but not an average if I'm wanting to say if or switch with a case. I want to check something. Why? Because all this work is done in the loop. If I put average down here, where you see average right here equals sum divided by 5. If I throw that up here in this loop, it's going to always be doing a calculation on average, but it's still not going to have the values for the individual values for test. So in comparing it to here, I don't have this option. I know what the average is. Yes, I know what the average is right after it does the loop, but I've lost my 5 test values before then. So I could obviously put them in another value, but that's overriding the purpose of the loop, right? They're coming in as test. So could I then have another one called test 1 and put test in test 1 and then another test 2 and put the next test in test 2? Of course I could, but this is illogical. I mean, we do use loops. We use loops in in if statements all the time, but only if you have an array, because the array captures each value. So this is a physical impossibility with a loop unless you're using the loop with an array. Okay, so cannot be done in the second one. Now let's end that one. So asterisk slash, go to the top and do slash asterisk. Now go down to the one I'm calling the chapter 8 version. Okay. So chapter 8. All right. Now, this one we'll go ahead and run as well, and then I'll go through this in detail. Okay, so run. It's going to want us to enter scores again. I wrote them down, right? So I got 90, then I've got 79, then I've got 83, then I've got 97, then I've got 85. Can't read my own writing. So the average of the 5 test scores was 86.80. Yes. 79 is less than the average test score. Work harder. This is just me putting on, I meant to have the same words, but I put work harder. Sorry about that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. 79, 83, and 85, they'll see, are less than 86.8. So yes, they are all less. 90 and 97 are not less, so they don't show up as less. So what did we do in chapter 8's case? Well, let's go look at it. So chapter 8, here we declared an array, right? So we have an array, test 5, of integer data type, and it is a one-dimensional, so a single dimension array, but for 5 separate test scores, there are in fact 5 different official indexes or indice values for this, starting at test 0, then test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4. Every one of those is captured and saved, but with this one variable name. So you might say, but Professor, it is test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4. So you do have 5 variables. And the answer is yes, yes. But how was it declared? As an array. So I have this test, open bracket, 5, close bracket, instead of test 0, comma, test 1, comma, test 2, comma, test 3, comma, test 4, right? So we have the array. We still have the sum, we still have the average, and now we have an index because we're going to be wanting to use the values in the array. Okay, everything else is still the same, and the loop is still the same, but now we're adding to it. So the loop, look at chapter 5. 4, counter equals 1, counter less than equal 5, counter plus plus. So here, chapter down here, 4, loop equals, index equals 0, index less than 5, index plus plus. So the same thing, okay? Here, I did start it at 1, and I went up to 5 that way as opposed to 0 through 4. It doesn't matter. But the point being, we have the same structure, okay? So in this case, we're starting at 0, so instead of less than equal, it's less than. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so that's that. But now on the C input, this is where we're getting the information. Before it was C input test. Okay. C in test. Okay. C in test. And up top, C in test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. So when we went to the loop, yes, we only had basically the one variable, and it was test. and every test was then overriding the previous one. In here, with that one, again, one variable based on how it appears, but it's really 5 different variables ranging from test 0 through test 4. Okay, but how do we make it work? Well, it can't work unless we put it in the array. So the array is the open bracket, index, close bracket. Test 5 up here, you might say, but where is the bracket? Where is the index? The index doesn't matter. What we have is test is the array, right? Test is the array. And this tells us there are 5 values for the array. So where we take advantage of the loop, remember, is in the loop. So index equals 0, index up to 4, basically. So less than 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and incrementing it by 1 each time. So when index is 0, index here is 0. After the iteration, it goes to 1. After it goes through the loop, that is. And of course, the loop C is only this. So it's line 81 to line 84. The calculations, when you're doing things like an average, they're outside the loop, okay? Outside the loop. So inside the loop, we're only taking the input from the user, and the same thing as in chapter 4's case, okay? Chapter 4's case, so we got the C input, and when we had the C input, we wanted to do our calculation. So average was test 0 plus test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3 plus test 4, and then divide by 5. So each one was captured because the user, when he or she enters, remember, with C input, the first value is assigned to the first C input variable name down below. So since they put in 5, test 0 was 90. Test 1 was 79. Test 2 was 83. Test 3 was 97. And test 4 was 85. Okay? But down here, we're able to take advantage of the index values. So what we do is we tie the array, so this is the array, in with the loop's index. All right? And that's what makes it so strong. So index. We get this, so in our loop, it starts at 0. 0 comes here. So what is the score for test 0? Look right here. 90 was the input. So 90 is in here for test 0. Okay. Then it says, all right, so test 0 value is 90. Okay. When you have the variable, the variable name, in this case, the array, okay, and its index, what you're getting is the variable value, the value that the user entered, and it associates with that index. So test 0, we get the 90, it goes over to the sum, and sum is a integer for adding up totals, right? So then that's the end of the loop. So remember, it stays in the loop because we're less than 5. So now it comes up after we did the index plus plus on the way down, then it's 1. 1 is the second one, so it's a 79. So 79's there, and then 79 we're adding to sum. Sum already had 90, just like in the case of chapter 4. So 90 plus 79, so now we're at 169. And this, though, index was 1. So we still have index 0 and index 1 as values. Okay, we have those values. We're capturing them, all right? And then we go through index 4, which is 5 based on 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5 was 85. So after 85 is entered, then index is, after the incrementation of plus plus here, index is now up to 5. And 5 is not less than 5. So it's over. After it ends, just enters a new line. So that's where you see this after 85, you see the blank space. That's just this. And then the average calculation is outside the loop. So sum, which has all 5 test scores, test 0 plus test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3 plus test 4, that's in sum, and then we're taking sum and dividing it by 5. Then the average of the 5 test scores is average, right? So you always do, you do your, in this case, calculation to get a value on the left average, and now we can use that value on the left average in this case, a COOT statement with the variable. So the average of 5 test scores was 86.80. Then one more if statement. So I have another little loop. Why another loop? Because I now, rather than have to type out if test index less than average for test index 0 and then 1 and then 2, then 3, then 4. Again, the good thing is because I have it as an array, right? it can cycle through them automatically. So you take advantage of the loop. So when test index here is 0, even though it's after that loop has ended, this loop has ended right here, right? It's ended. So, but we had test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4 captured. So down here, it's a new loop, but we still have those values. So we're still getting them. So index 0 less than 5 is the 4. So we're going through 5 times. And then we're just asking the if statement once. If test of index. Index right now is 0. Is it less than average? Well, what is test 0? It's a 90. Is that less than average? 86.8? No, it's not. So it's not. So it bypasses this. This if statement here only has if it's true. Since it doesn't have anything else, it just goes to the top again for the loop. Next one is test index 1. So index 1 is a 79. Is 79 less than average? Yes, it is. So it's true. So it comes in and says 79 is less than the average test score, work harder. 79 is less than the average test score, work harder. Then it comes to the next one. Next one is the third value. So the third value is an 83. It's test index 2, but that's on the 0, 1, 2 scale. So now 83, is that less than 86.80? Yes, it is. So it pops up over here in our output terminal. So 83 is less than the average test score, work harder. Goes back to the next one. The next one is index 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is what it's called. But again, position 4, it's a 97. 97 is not less than average, so it doesn't show up over here. Goes to the last one. Last one is an 85. So now that's the last value, meaning index 4. So index 4 is less than 5, goes in. And index 4 is the fifth value. It's 85. 85 is less than 86. So it also gets a 85 is less than. So that's how it works with the array. Okay. So there were 2 things we used with this array. And you note both of them were in the loops. Okay. So we declared an array. What was the array for? Single dimension array variable for 5 separate test scores. And I put replaces test 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, meaning from chapter 4. Okay, so that replaced those, that variable. We still had sum, we still had average, and we did not have index in chapter 4 because we weren't using loops. Okay, so we do have a variable for the loop to go through the loop. And then what is index for? To work with the test 5 array for 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the 5 test scores. And then, of course, just our little set precision. And the same thing, enter 5 test scores. And then we came to the loop. So the loop, we've done loops since chapter 5 now. So index equals 0. If it's a for loop, you have the first two parts of the expression end in a semicolon. The third one is just the incrementation of the value. So the first is always starting it at either 0 or 1, depending on what you're doing. In this case, 0. If it's 0, then you're going to say less than the high number. And normally, again, we would take this. We'd ask the user, how many tests do you want to enter? And if they put 5, then we'd have, test scores from user or whatever that variable would be called. But either way, but again, hard-coded it, but that's okay, right? It's just to get the point across. We all know that we could have, like right here, I put enter 5 test scores. Using an array, there could be 10,000 tests or more. And if there were, it'd go test 0, test 1, test 2, ... all the way to test 9999, if there were 10,000. Okay. All right. So anyway, so it goes through that cycle. Outside the cycle is not here, sorry. Outside the cycle is where we do our sum, and we also, of course, put that result. Then we're going into another loop because we do not have anything on the if statement yet. Okay. We don't know still which scores were less than average or not, because when you capture the results, remember in this first 4, we can't do an average because we're capturing everything. We're capturing 0, index 0, that was 90, but that's not an average. And remember, a loop goes through while there's values. Even though we have 90 kept, we haven't gotten a calculation of the average yet so that we can do anything with it. That's outside the loop. So it was test 0, then test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4. And so then we added those individual tests to the sum, and then we did our average calculation. Now we have our calculation for average. So then I put another COOT statement outside the next loop, or before, but meaning outside. The average of the 5 test scores was average. That's fine. And then We want to go through and compare now against the average. So same thing, index 0 to less than 5. So index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If test index, what is index? It's 0. What is test 0? 90. Is it less than average? What is average? It's 86.8. 90 less than that? No, it's not. So it doesn't pop up down here. It then goes to the second iteration. So that's the second value, 79. So test 1 is now gotten, if you will, from index 1, but we're calling it test, right? We throw an index in it to make it, because they're the same values, 0 through, and then whatever the highest value is. So test index here is 1, meaning the second value. It's a 79. Is that less than 86.8? Yes, it is. So 79 is less than the average. Okay? And it puts that as part now off the loop. Then it goes back to the top. It's now the third value. So that's index 2. That's the third value here. It's at 83. Is 83 less than 86.8? Yes, it is. So it also puts in right here. Then it goes up again. Now it's the fourth. So 90, 79, 83, 97. Is 97 less than 86.8? No, it's not. So it's not showing up here. And then it goes to the last one. Now we're at index 4, which is the fifth value. Okay. Is 85, which is the fifth value, less than 86.8? Yes, it is. So it also shows up here. Okay. So this is the best way to do the code from chapter 4 that we started, back on chapter 4's case to enter scores. But don't think of it again as 5. Think of it as something much, 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 much larger than that. All right. Okay. Now, so that is that. But what I want to do now, and I want to check my time first to see whether I'm going to manually do it or just pull it up from my file. It's 12:28. Wow. So we're already 32 minutes in. So I don't think I'm going to do it the way I was going to do it, which was from my, just building it manually. So let's see, this is that one. So although I could just really take the values from there and then it wouldn't be that much extra work, but I want to make sure you can focus on it. So if we do it that way, let's just try to focus, and hopefully I'll still be able to do it within 45 minutes. So let me take this thing up. Okay. Actually, I don't need to take that up because I have it here. I already have that here. So here, I'll just modify it for this one here. So this is, and actually I don't want to modify it because I don't want to ruin this. So let me just go here, / again, and end this one, and I'll copy it, and then I'll play with it down here, */. All right, so now what I'll just do is copy everything from the chapter 8 version, meaning the one-dimensional array, and I'll even copy the now on it. All right, so I'll just copy all that, okay, and then I'll end it right here. So Control copy that, and then come down here, Control V that, and now I'm going to call this one. Let's see here. So I'm going to say that ends that, right? Yeah. Now this one I'm going to say though. Let's see. Now let's do a programming example similar to programming exercise. I don't know if it's 8.2 or 8.3, so I'll say 8.2 and 8.3. I'm only going to demonstrate it for the largest number, okay? But this will help you on both, because if you can do one, then you can do the other. Right, so that. All right, now, so obviously we're going to still have what we need to have. Now in this case, let me put here what I want it to do. So I'm more or less saying that this program will allow the user to enter the points scored by the Toronto Raptors in their last 5 games. Now, obviously, I'm not going to really check them. We're just going to throw numbers in, but that's basically what we're going to do. We will then use these numbers to get an average, which is no big deal. All right, get an average and get the largest number of points scored by Toronto in those games. Okay, more or less that. Okay, we're still going to need our IO stream, still going to need our IO manip, still going to need namespace. So that's all good, right? Now here, where I've got test here, I'm going to call this score. Okay. So if I put this one here as score, oops, okay, I want all of these others as score. So actually, let me just copy that. Copy that and test. So anywhere it says the word test, I just make it score. Okay, score. Test, that's a comment. Comments don't matter. Test, Control V. And of course, some of this I'm going to actually change up because it's not going to work probably for what I'm wanting to do. All right, so that, you know what, I will put it in these things too, just so it doesn't look like I'm not, you know, because it'll otherwise look kind of funny. So Control V that. Test 5, average of the 5. I'll just get rid of the points here. 5 scores by Toronto. 5 scores by Toronto. Okay, and test V score. Control V. Test. Get rid of that. Is less than the average score. Toronto needs to do better. Do better. That, and test again. Score. Control V. All right, let's see. Any that don't pop up, obviously, when I'm running the program, it's not going to work. All right, but we need that, okay? Now, so we got the array, and here it's going to be 5 separate point totals by the Toronto Raptors. I can't spell Toronto anymore. Toronto Raptors. 5 separate point totals by the Toronto Raptors. Don't need any of that stuff. All right, so now we have that. We definitely need the sum, and I probably want to go ahead and use the average as well. And I'm going to definitely need a index, okay? But what else am I going to need? I said this one's going to be for largest number. I don't know what they called it in the thing. Let me just go to it actually again real quick while we're here. Let's see, I'm not in MindTap. Get it to MindTap. Come on, come on. I'm not here. Go to MindTap. The one that's the largest is what I'm going to demonstrate. But again, I'm not going to talk about what theirs is called at all this time. You're going to just change mine up as need be for it. Okay. All right. So arrays and strings code. I think it was 2, but if it's not 2, it's 3. Let's see if it says largest or smallest. Come on. All right. Oh, start. Okay, this one is smallest. So that means it's programming exercise 8.3. That's all that means. Okay, and I'll even pull it up to show you. But 8.2 and 8.3 are the same thing. One is smallest, one is largest. Think about it. It's a very small code change. But let me open up 8.3 just to make sure it's this one. Come on, come on. Man, oh man. Start. All right, yeah, largest, okay? So you're basically entering 15 numbers, and they want the largest of those 15 numbers. In this case, it's going to obviously be that number, but I don't care about that. I'm closing it down. I'm not going to compare anything I do to that, but understand if they're looking for the largest number, I'm getting the largest score. They're looking for the largest index, I'm going to get the largest index. Index is position within the array, okay? All right, so back over here. All right, so I have double average. I'm going to need my index, okay? This should again be, what does it count? Score? Control V, score. Okay, and then I also want, because I need to know the largest numbers, what I'm going to call it, so I'm going to declare that as a variable. So double largest number, okay? Toronto's largest point total. Really, that only needs to be an integer. That's okay. I'll just leave it anyway. All right. So Toronto's largest point total. So we definitely need that. And then what's going on here? Replit is out of sync. Oh, god darn it. What the heck? Get out of here. Come back to it. Oh man, I can't. Dang. Sync to share savings. I won't just I just reset whatever. Okay. So largest number. Okay. And then I also need a max index or large index, whatever, for that too. Okay. So then I'm going to say int. Let's see. Max index, I guess. Max index. Okay. The index number of the largest point total. Okay, so I need that. That's going to be 5. Fine, set precision. Enter 5. Actually, you know what? In this, I don't know. I don't think it'll ever come out to. I'll just leave it anyway. It doesn't matter. Okay. Enter 5. Let's see. Enter. I'm saying the last, but we're not really worried about that. The last 5 points scored. God, I can't. I was wrong here. For the Toronto Raptors. Okay. 10,000 point totals. Okay, for loop is fine. So that's I'm just now going in and looking for what the heck I want to do. So now where are we at? So we've got a score with 5 for an array, okay, which we just took from the other one that we were just dealing with. And we've got a largest score in here now, which I'm calling largest number. I thought I said score, but I guess I wrote it down as number. It doesn't really matter. We've got the sum, we've got the average. We're still going to use those. I have max index because I want to know the largest, the index number of wherever the largest points come from. And that I need, so that's fine. And now we just want to go ahead and start our little loop. So down here, well, we're saying enter the last 5, so fine. So for index 0, that's fine. Index less than 5, that's fine. Index plus plus, that still works. Okay. So here, score index is already what I'm doing because I called it score. See, remember I did that with the copy paste. I mean, I just refixed, I fixed this one. It used to say test. I changed it to score, and then I just made all these others say it. So score of index, okay, is going to be the score for, the first value. So that's A-OK. And I want to, though, initialize it to 0. I mean, I don't technically have to. Looks like I didn't in my last one. Why didn't I? I like to initialize things to 0. I could have done that up here, int max index, and then put index to 0, but I also could have done my score. Anyway, it's okay. All right, so score of index, and then add the score, meaning the number of points, to, that's probably what I should have called it, points, because it's not really a score. Anyway, I'm going to leave it this way. So that, okay, so score there. Now, I have to go ahead and say, I've got to figure out what's going to happen on it. So basically, when you want to do, what we're looking for is just one score, meaning one score being the highest. So I have to make sure that I check that thing, okay? So first I got to get my input from the user, the C input score for the index. Then I want to go ahead and make sure that the score is higher or lower than whatever the heck I'm doing, okay? So I'm going to say here, I'm going to need an if statement. Let's see here, an if statement. And will I need another for loop? I may not, but let me just do it all in this one. So that, and then I'm going to stay up there, and I'm going to put in my loop. So I'm in my array, and within my for loop, and now I want to say about my if score. So the score is entered, okay? And that in here, so I'm going to say, not that. All right, so if, okay? So if, and then what is our expression for the if? So score, what is our score? I'm looking for max index. Okay, so I'm going to put a bracket, left bracket, max index, a right bracket. So if score max index, then I have to have a score from them. What is their score? Let's see. What's the user inputting? The user is inputting, oh, actually the user is inputting score. So if the user is inputting score for max index, that's okay, yeah, the score as max index and then the score for index. Okay, that's right. Okay, so the score there less than the score, and this will also be index, okay, but not max index. What this is saying is this, okay, so max index, let me put up here equals 0. I like to do that, and it's really important too, and I'm going to say the same on all these others. So equals 0. Average at this point we can say equals 0. All right, and score that to that. All right, so what you want to happen when you're looking for something, you have to start with something, okay? So basically, max index right now I'm assigning as 0, okay? The first score that I'm going to put in, meaning points for Toronto, is going to be like 110 or 112 or 106. It's going to be it's sure not going to be 0, okay? So what that will basically mean is that my 0 will for sure be less. So then I want to assign index to max index, okay? So if that, it's going to be that. So I'm going to say now, if that is true, enter and say max index equals index, okay? So max index equals index. And this is looking for the index value, okay? So index value of max index. It's not going to matter initially, right? Because we're going to be going through it as this is in the loop. You see, here's the loop. The if is within the loop. So I'm assigning right away max index is a 0. But the first index, not index, but when it's put in as score and then index, it'll be a score, let's say 100 points, index 0. So for index 0, it'll be 100. But right away, I'm going to say, well, that 100, in my case, because I'm not using max index in it, their max index doesn't get these index values. So max index is what? It's still 0. So then let's say it's 110 for this first one. Then 110 is assigned over to max index. And now we'll be going through, you know, the 110 against the next score, etc. And that's what I want it to do anyway. All right, so max index will be that. So max index equals the index. And then I want to find the largest score, and that'll also be in my value because I need to figure this out. So here I'll say, what do I call it? Largest number. So my largest number will be the score. And now I've got a score for max index. Why? Because I've assigned it to a value here. And I already have max index within the loop with score. So that will then work. So largest number, that will work. Okay. All right. Now let's see. We got max index equals index that. And then we just say assign largest, I'm just going to say in this case score though, largest score, largest points to score max index at that point. Okay, so that'll be that. And then let's see, we're going to have our sum in there. So we've got a sum. So then what? So then after that, I think we're just going to have our, so we're going to end the loop. So let's see, this loop here ends here. Okay, so that is going to now end. And now I want to get my thing. So average, I have average as 0. And what do I want average to be? The sum. Let's see where I'm getting sum. Here's my sum. It's in the loop, so it's being added. So equals sum divided by 5. It's 5. That's still A-OK. The average up to 5, I want to say point scored. That's silly because it's not really scored. Anyway, point scored by Toronto was average. Okay. And I don't need this because this was trying to see if it's less than or, although I could do that with it, right? You can figure out, is it less than the score they got, the number of points they got, less than or better than, but I'm not going to go there. So we'll just end this right here and end this right here. Okay. So now what don't we have? So we got a coot for the average, but we also want to have a coot for for the average, we need to have the coot for the largest number. So the largest number for Toronto is what we now need to have. So let's say here a coot that the most points scored by Toronto in these 5 games was, and then we got to just put that thing over there, largest score. So that, and then over here, less than, and the variable largest score, and largest number. Largest number's already got that value. Where does it have that number? Right here. So I don't need the index anymore. So largest number, that. Let's see, the most points scored. Let's just try it out. Okay. Let's see. Expected unqualified, line 130. Oh, I got this silly thing there still. That's why. Okay, run. All right, enter the last 5 points scored. That's a horrible, it doesn't make sense, but I'm trying to say the number of points they score. So I'm going to say 124. That's one. 116. That's another. Now they don't usually score tons of points, but I'm being optimistic. 110. 116 again. And 109. Now we got 109. So the average of the 5 points, God, that makes no sense, but scored by Toronto was 115. So let's add it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 500, 520, 530, 540, 550, 559, 565, 571, 575 divide by 5. So 5, that's 100. 5 into 75 goes 5 into 75. So 20, 30, 15. So it's one, yeah, so 115. So that's correct. The most points scored by Toronto in these 5 games was 124. Oh, I didn't put my darn index value. Crap. Okay. Yeah. So that's all okay. If that is the good value, and was, let's see. So it was that largest number. Let's see that. And then make this long, and then have a space. Right. Was so up here. The most points scored by Toronto in these 5 games was 124, and it was found at, and then where was it found at? It was found at, let's see, oh, max index. Yeah, max index. Okay, so found at, and then let's see that max index. And again, oh shoot, I forgot that. Doesn't matter if the scores are different. I'll make them easier for us to add. So I'll say 120, 100, 110, 120, 100. All right, so the average of these, of the 5 points scored by Toronto was 110. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 520, 530, 550. It's for sure. Divided by 5 is 100, and 5 tens are 50, so 110. Most points scored by Toronto in these 5 games was 120. So 120, yes. You might say that's 120, yeah, but it's always going to be the first occurrence. I mean, unless you change it, but either way, that's fine. So 120 is right. And it was found at, I don't want to say it's 0, but anyway, position 0 is right. I'll change it up now where it's not at position 0, but let's see. It was found at index. And I'll put one of those again. All right, so let's do it this time with, I'll start with different numbers. Let's see. So 110, 120, 112, 116. That's 4. I want to make it a middle one though, so we don't go whatever. So I'll say 124 and 100, just that. Okay. So now the average of that we assume that's correct. Now the most points scored was 124, and that's index 0, 1, 2, 3. Found at index 3. Good. All right. So this thing here will now work for you as a good example. I'm not going to relate how you change it up and what you change up, right? You're smart people. You've looked at this. I mean, you haven't looked at this one, but I mean, hopefully you've read your ebook. But this is the code area where you figured out the max index was down here, obviously. And I actually should have put at least a comment or two on it. Okay. Let's see. So measure the 5 points scored. 5. I don't like those words, but anyway, it is what it is. Get the average. If the score is less than that. So here, let me put a little, or I can put it, I'll put it here. Hopefully it'll be small. Let's see. Comparing max index value to index value. I should say score, point. Max index points, point total, to index point total. Point, okay? Max index value here, but okay, yeah, that's fine. Largest number. So now assign, so let's see, this is still in the loop. It's going, as it goes through every iteration in the loop. So assign large score to max score max index after going through all values in all scores, all point totals in the loop. Space, yeah, not that it matters. Okay, that. All right, so I'm going to let it go now and let you guys take a copy of this if you want. So this is the only thing I really want you to get, because this is the focus on the other, but if you want, I'll also go back up there for the other. So let's see when this ends. Why is this messing me up? Okay, that. Oh, so let me also put down here a little slash. The above program will help you with prog excellent. I think it said 8-3 now, 8-3, but it will also help you with prog exer 8-2 if you change the largest number code up to work for smallest number. Okay? And that is enough for you to get on that. All right. So now I'm going to, so here's the comment. Let me get rid of the space here. Okay. So, whoops, let's see here. Why is this thing all messed up today? I can't even click it. Right here. All right, so right there, you can take a picture from 98 down to just say 122, okay? That may be too wide. If it is, let me make it a little bit narrower just in case, okay, like that. And now you only get to go down to about 121, but that's fine, okay? So 98 to 121. So take about 15 seconds, take a picture of that. If you want to also take a picture of the terminal part where you're getting your score, your results on the right side of the screen, that's perfectly fine too. Okay. Wait another few seconds, and of course it'll only be one more picture, as you saw. It wasn't that much. Now I could have left that other part though, where that second for loop, to say if the score of each game was less than or above the average, because I showed here the average is 113.20. It may look weird, but that's again because I moved this thing over. So now that you've done that picture, if I move this over more to the left, then this 3.20 will tack on to after 11, and which it is, it's really 113.20. Okay. Anyway, so now I'll go down to, so that's 120. So 121, is that what I said? Well, so just focus on what you need. So 121 down, I think, is what you then need. All right. And again, I don't know if I need to make it narrower. I'll make it from there. So about 121 down that way. And if you take a picture of that, that will help you. And I'm not elaborating anymore. I've given you enough because I demonstrated this in, in this particular program. And I said I would do the largest number, and it worked out very well. I wasn't sure about me typing it all in and getting it done within time, but I think we're still more or less right at an hour. So I'm happy with the time anyway. And I also, though, demonstrated the other program, which I still have above. So I'm going to go up there just in case one of you wants to get the chapter 8 part of that. Okay. So I'm going to now on this one put an asterisk slash under this, meaning I'm going to have a slash asterisk before it. this one, slash asterisk. And what I'll do here is, if you want this other one, I'll take away I'll make it the live one. Okay. Get rid of this part. Okay. And now though, I'll get rid of some spaces. Don't need that. Don't need that. I don't want where there's only one word. Let's see. Work with test 5 array for 5 test scores, maybe for 5. Okay, oops, for 5 test scores. All right, set that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. There's no spaces here. Okay, so if you do want this one, this is chapter 8. Oh, redo that. They're using chapter 8. So now it's going to go to one more line. Chapter 8, one-dimensional array. Let's see. Instead of now, let's just say let's do a program using that. I like to put the darn days though. This is November 23. So I'm going to say now redo and put here November 23 is what it is on my PC. So November 23. Okay, so if you do want this, then you're welcome to right here. So starting on line 64 down to 89. Okay, I'll leave it there in case you want it. This, because it is demonstrating, you know, an array, it's similar stuff, but just in case, maybe it'll help you if you look at 2 different ones. Although here I didn't do it based on, like I wasn't doing a largest number, you know, which is what the other one demonstrated. Okay, but if you want that anyway, so that's line 64 to line 89. I'll wait another 30 or so seconds, or 20 or so seconds. And I'll be playing this one in class, by the way, on Tuesday. Let's see, this is Thursday. No, this is Friday, right? No, heck, I don't even know what day it is. Oh my God. Man, oh man, it's Wednesday. So yeah, we're just, excuse me, yesterday we had class. So yesterday was the 22, so it'll be the 29th. I'll be playing this in class on 11/29, okay? And then on Thursday, the December 1, I'll be in Montreal. I'll be there in Montreal on Wednesday through Sunday, but I'll have another video to demonstrate. I said either a data file or a C string. That'll be my second one. I'll look again at what the chapter includes in terms of your programming exercises and make my decision based on that. And it'll be similar to this where I help you on it, but I'm not going to elaborate on the specifics and say, in your case, you have to blah, blah, blah. So I hope this is fair and give you enough. Anyway, so that's down through line 89, okay? So 89, so then we'll, oh, you know what? We don't need that one because we already have that. Shoot. So now let me just go down, I guess. So can't get 89. You don't really only need it 2 or 3 more lines. Go again. 2 or 3 lines. God, what is wrong with this thing? 89. I think I said it went to 89. So you want 90, I think. You know what? I'll leave 89 just in case. No, I know 89 was the end of that. That was there. So it's 90. So all you need is that. So that's the end of int main at the very, very bottom. And on line 90, then it's the end of the loop. Okay? Meaning the closing curly brace. All right. So anyway, get that if you want it. And have a great day, guys. I'll see you in class on Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed, I'm going to say enjoyed your Thanksgiving, because right now, again, it's the day before Thanksgiving. But when you see this, it'll be 4 or 5 days after it. All right. All right. Have a great day. Bye, bye, bye. Let me stop sharing my screen.